Welcome back to the Basement Breakdown. Viewers, subscribers of the channel, and anyone new, welcome. We've got a lot to talk about. I've got a lot to talk about. Alright, the main topic of conversation will be UFC 323. This is the last UFC event of the year until the Paramount deal kicks in January, which will be featuring Justin Gaethje versus Paddy Pimblett for the lightweight strap. Co-main event, Kayla Harrison versus Amanda Nunes. As we all know, announced last week. So let's savor this. Let's make some money. And it is a very, very, very fun card. So I'm really excited for it. Let's dive into it. Our first fight of the night is in the featherweight division. We have Muhammad Naimov versus Marion Santos. Marion Santos, I think, is almost a minus 225 favorite. And I will go with him in the fight. And I'll give you my reasons why. Muhammad Naimov is a good fighter. Start off with Marion Santos. His last fight was against Sadiq Youssef. Sadiq Youssef hasn't won a fight in 3 fights. Started the losing streak with Edson Barbosa. Finished it with Marion Santos. Edson's also on this card, but Marion Santos, 17-1. Beat Sadiq Youssef, as I said last time out. Before that, beat Francis Marshall. Somewhat controversial decision. I think I had Marion Santos in the fight, so I was really happy to see that he won, but I think he was down on all the rounds on the verdict scorecard, and there was a lot of control on Francis Marshall's side, but I do believe the strikes were on Marion Santos' side, but yeah, tough. Before that, he did fight Con O'Flea, and he was able to TKO the dude. I would draw a similarity between this fight and Muhammad Naimov's performance against Con O'Flea, which was a decision, which was decently competitive. So, Marion Santos is definitely better on the feet. Muhammad Naimov, what can I really say about the dude? Bogdangrad last time out, kind of controversial, but he did win the decision against him. And then before that, fought Con O'Flea. Was able to win the decision, as I said, over him. Muhammad Naimov, I think, will resort to trying to take Marion Santos down, but I feel like he's probably got to a point where he'll be able to nullify that. I really do want to take Marion Santos either by a finish or a decision in this fight. I'm probably going to go with a decision for Marion Santos, but I do think it's going to be a tough fight, and it's going to be fun. But yeah, Marion Santos, 29-28 decision. We move up the card. First fight of the night. We're going with a favorite. All right. We move up the card. Next fight of the night, Mansour Abdul Malik versus Antonio Tricoli. Mansour Abdul Malik is 8-0-1. And that one draw is against Cody Brundage, which was overturned, I believe, from a unanimous decision or a TKO or whatever it was, to a draw, which is fair. It was a highly competitive fight. Mansour Abdul Malik has pretty good knockout power, if I do say so myself. It's going to be favored in this fight. Came into the UFC fighting Wes Schultz on the Contender Series. Was able to TKO him. Beat Dusko Todorovic in the first round. Was able to TKO him. To be fair, who hasn't been able to TKO Dusko Todorovic? And last time out, he beat Nick Klein. Not last time out. Cody Brundage draw last time out, but still a good performance. Cody Brundage is tough. And I thought they made the right decision making it a draw. But Antonio Tricoli kind of sucks. What can I really say about the dude? He got submitted by Tresean Gore. Need I say any more? That should probably be the end of conversation. But Sharaput Magomedov was able to TKO him in the third round. I think he's somewhat more he's kind of elusive. I don't think Mansour Abdul Malik will be able to get this done immediately. I think if and when he finishes him, it'll be I think it'll be in the second round. Somewhere around there, second, third round. I see Antonio Tricoli being able to survive. But he is a bum, and I don't use that term lightly. I'm sorry, you're a professional UFC fighter, but Mansour Abdul Malik is 8-0. After he disposes of Antonio Tricoli, they got to step it up in competition for him. They got to give him someone that's going to get him somewhat close to someone who's ranked. This doesn't really do it, but he should beat Antonio Tricoli. Let's check the odds. Minus 1,200, yeah. Should be a finish, and then, yeah, as I said, in the later rounds. We have Ivo Aslan versus Ivo versus Ivo. Ivo Bernowski, who's 6-0. This should be a good fight. Came up via the Contender Series, I believe. Beating Muhammad Ali. It's not spelt the way that the great Muhammad Ali's name is spelt, but I do remember that fight. Before that, he fought in like Babylon or some weird federation and regional MMA, but he's able to get people out of there, and he's got some heavy hands. Ivo Aslan, I believe I picked against him his last time out, which was against Billy Anakana. Yeah, he lost a unanimous decision to him because he was scared after losing to Ion Kutliba. So I think he wanted to kind of play it safe versus Billy, which didn't go in Ibo's favor. I was happy I took Billy in that fight. That's my reasoning for why I took him, and that's what ended up happening. He was supposed to fight Junior Taffa. The Taffa brothers have pulled out of God knows how many events, but yeah. What are the odds on this? Ivo Aslan is a plus 165. This is really tough because after Ibo's 2 performances, I kind of don't really want to pick him, but there could be that shock factor from going from, the regional competition into the contender. Oh, man. Paulo Renato Jr., Rafael Kakaria, and Anton Turkliaj. Who's Anton? Oh, this is tough. I don't know if I can do it. Never mind. I was going to go with Ivo Aslan, but he hasn't fought anybody that should convince me otherwise. And he's lost his last 2 fights. I don't trust him. I really don't trust him. Yeah, I think he's going to get TKO'd. So we're going to go with Iwo to be, concise. By Baranowski by second round TKO. Maybe even first. I think it's going to come sooner than later. Perhaps Ibo's learned and he just shows a different level of fighting. But, I haven't seen it from him. I just went through his record and I just remember those fights. And I'm like, yeah. Rafael Kakaria just lost. He sucks. He'll be out the UFC. The other guy he fought, not great either. My money's on Iwo. Should finish him. We move up to Edson Barbosa versus Jalen Turner. Edson Barbosa lost to Jakar Klaus his last time out. Close fight. Strikes were in favor of Edson Barbosa. A lot of time on the fence spent in that fight. But this is his last fight, I believe. Edson Barbosa always shows up in tremendous shape. He's freaking jacked. And he's not burly like me. He's super cut and he looks like a freaking... he looks like an athlete. He looks like a bodybuilder. Meh. But he's in great shape, regardless. Looks like the Terminator, kind of. But Jalen Turner comes back after a hiatus because he retired prematurely, might I add, because he's a young guy, against Ignacio Bahamundes when he shoved himself into his guard. Not a smart idea. I like Jalen Turner. The Tarantula has been in some good fights. I hope I didn't mess up his name. I'd be very upset if I did. No, it's the Tarantula. Of course I remember you. Jalen Turner last time out, as I said, Ignacio Bahamundes. He's only 30 years old, but he has a record of 14-9, which is a little lackluster, but he has good wins, and he's fought predominantly in the UFC. Jamie Malarkey, Uros Medic, Bobby Green. He had a really close fight with Mateusz Gamrot, 2 split decision losses to Dan Hooker and Mateusz Gamrot. In that fight, I believe people argued that the knockdown was a slip or something like that. Really close fight. Loses to Renato Moicano. His fight IQ wasn't great in that fight. I remember he knocked him down and then kind of looks at the ref to end it, and then ends up getting TKO'd himself. which wasn't great. And then last time, as I said at the beginning, shoved himself into Ignacio Bahamundez's guard and got finished. He's back against Edson Barboza. And he should win this fight, honestly. Like, he should either win a very unanimous decision against Edson Barboza, or he could finish him. I think Jalen Turner will... I think he's going to be playing it safe. Like, I think he just wants the win. So I'm going to go with a 30-27, 29-28 unanimous decision win from Jalen Turner. He's going to box up Edson Barboza, and then Edson's going to retire because there's no need for him to stick around when you're losing to Jakar Kloss. What else can I really say about that fight? Yeah, I think it goes over 1.5 rounds. Maybe there's some money on that, but we move up. Bruno Ferreira goes up against Marvin Vettori. Marvin Vettori hasn't won a fight since what? Paulo Costa? I feel very bad for him. He lost his brother. I don't think he's ever been finished in his career. Has he been even knocked down? I don't think. No. But he's on a 3-fight losing streak. Sorry, he beat Roman Dolidze after Paulo Costa. And then lost to Jared Cannonier. Good fight. He was winning the earlier rounds, but I don't know how he didn't get knocked out that fight. Went up against Roman Dolidze in like a fight night rematch. Why? Because. And we picked Roman Dolidze, which was a smart pick at the time because he beat him. And then Brendan Allen and Marvin Vettori had a very close fight. A lot of damage. I think a lot of people live bet that fight to go Marvin Vettori's way after the third round, but we stuck with Brendan Allen in our pick. I really do like Marvin Vettori. He's such a tough guy, but I feel like his best days are probably behind him. And Bruno Ferreira is on a bit of a streak here. Like, he's a very good fighter, Bruno Ferreira. I've taken him the last couple fights. Beat Jackson McVeigh last time out, who's like, I don't think he's won a fight in the UFC. Jackson McVeigh. Zachary Reese finished him last time out. Then he beat Armand Petrosian, who's no longer in the UFC, right? So that's, went against Abus Magomedov. Abus Magomedov won via submission, but Bruno Ferreira's fight IQ was a little not so good in that fight. I think he could have finished him at certain points. Definitely could have had him out of there if he did the right things, but, you live and you learn. He's beat Dustin Stolfus, Phil Hawes. My favorite one of his is his first fight in the UFC after the Contender Series against Gregory Rodriguez. RoboCop is a big dude who, we've seen, big dude, knockout power. Which is why I think he's going to be able to finish Marvin Vettori. I don't know. Marvin Vettori's really tough. He used to bust out his grappling a little bit more in his earlier fights. I think his most takedowns was against Kevin Holland, where he had freaking 1,000. Realistically, I think he had 20 or something like that, or maybe 20 or 11, whatever it was. It was a lot. Marvin Vettori hasn't really gone for that grappling style anymore or used it. And he said in a lot of his interviews with MMA Junkie that he perhaps will use it and don't count him out for a submission, but I don't really see it. Bruno Ferreira's got good boxing too. I think if they get into an exchange, honestly, there's a chance for a TKO, there's a chance for a submission from Bruno Ferreira, but Marvin Vettori's tough, so I want to go with a submission. Bruno Ferreira submission over Marvin Vettori. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to go with a third round submission, Bruno Ferreira over Marvin Vettori. It's ambitious, but yeah, I do feel like that's where my heart's at. And I don't know if we mentioned it's pretty close actually. I'm looking at it right now. On some betting sites, Bruno Ferreira is a slight favorite, but on most, Marvin Vettori is a minus 115, minus 120 on some from what it seems. So Marvin Vettori is still the favorite. So technically I'll be taking Bruno Ferreira as an underdog pick. We move up. Right. Yeah. Woo. This is a fire card. I'm actually very excited just looking up and down, and we haven't even gotten to that was the feature fight for the early prelims, which is which honestly could have, been a fight night at one point, still probably. Nazim Siddiqov versus Ferezziam. He hasn't lost in the UFC, Nazim Siddiqov, I don't think. Or has he? Not to my knowledge. Okay, sorry. A draw with Vyacheslav Borshev, Slava Claus, who's, I don't know if he's in the UFC anymore. Love that guy, though. Last time out, Nicholas Mata. Nazim was able to get the TKO. God bless the ref for letting that go, but he was in the corner. Siddiqov slipping shots at one point. Good fight. Nicholas Mota's was on a 2-fight win streak before fighting him, so you got to give him that. But, he was having his issues with Ishmael Bonfim before he TKO'd him. He's gone Terrence McKinney out of there, Evan Elder, and then came up via the Contender Series. Ferezziam, he's lost to Terrence McKinney. Well, Nazim has beaten Terrence McKinney, but Terrence is on a bit of a win streak of him right now, and he can do things. But he beat Michael Figlak, Jai Herboat, Claudio Poulos, Matt Frivola, and Mike Davis last time out. Mike Davis is a good win. It's a tough fight. Siddiqov is there to be hit a lot, I feel like, while Ferezziam is good at circling. This is, I said at the beginning, this is going to be a really tough card to predict. So be careful where you place your money. And honestly, if you guys have any advice for me, or you want to second guess my predictions, I'm happy to hear it, because this is a tough card. But just giving you my 2 cents. I think Ferezziam is more elusive, and I just think he's I think he'll be able to win a decision over Nazim Siddiqov. This is really tough, honestly. I could be wrong about this, but Ishmael Bonfim, that hasn't really aged that well. Vyacheslav Borshev hasn't won a fight. He's tough though. I love Slava Claus. Don't get it twisted. But Nicholas Mota hasn't fought since that fight. Before that was on a 2-fight win streak. I just rate some of Ferezziam's opponents more so. And I think he's going to be able to win a unanimous decision over Nazim Siddiqov. Yeah. This is what I think is going to happen. These are close fights. We move up to the women's flyweight division. Corinne Silva goes up against Macy Barber. Macy Barber is a -180. Corinne Silva is a +155. Pretty close, to be honest. Money to be made on a lot of these fights. Corinne Silva last time out, she took on Dion Barbosa. I believe we had Corinne Silva in that fight. Now, it was very close. I believe I had Corinne Silva in that fight. It's very, very, very close fight. She was able to... I honestly don't remember how, she got outstruck from the looks of it. I think it was a little bit of a robbery, but that doesn't matter. She goes up against Macy Barber. I think Macy Barber is the more skilled opponent. She lost to Vivian Aruja before that, Corinne Silva, in a pretty close fight. Macy Barber is a lot better, I think. I think she can even TKO her, which is maybe what I'll take. She was supposed to fight Erin Blanchfield in what ended up becoming Gamrot versus Klein in the main event, because Macy Barber couldn't walk out. I think she was hospitalized. We figured that out seconds before the event was supposed to take place. What comment's gonna make? You kind of worry about people like Macy Barber who, starting OnlyFans, some of these MMA chicks. And I don't want that to nullify her training, but I think she'll be able to beat Corinne Silva, right? I think it'll either be a unanimous decision or a TKO in the second or third round. Standing TKO, just doctor style, or not doctor, yeah. Someone will come in and just wave it off. So we'll go with that. Macy Barber, slight favorite. We move up to Terrence McKinney versus Chris Duncan. Oof. Terrence McKinney is a +140, while Chris Duncan is a -160. Terrence McKinney's last win was against Slaviclaus, which is a good win. He submitted Slaviclaus. Before that, he beat Damir Hadzovic. Is he on a 3-fight win streak, Terrence McKinney? No. Before that, he got knocked out bad by Esteban Ribovics, where he was like next to the cage. He's had some bad, he's been knocked out by Ismail Bonfim, which not a good look. Nadim Sadikov, who we just talked about. Drew Dober, Sean Woodson on the Contender Series. That was a pretty bad one. This is a tough fight, honestly. I feel like Terrence McKinney, like just off the bat, is much faster than Chris Duncan. So there's that. I've gone with Chris Duncan the last couple fights against Rebecca and whoever he fought before. He's been a good underdog for me. Jordan Vucinic kind of shoved himself into a guillotine when he was fighting Chris Duncan. Bellagio Key, again, like was kind of busting him up on the feet before. And like in his last fight, Chris Duncan was taking a lot of damage. But he got off good elbows. He's very clunky, and it's kind of awkward how he wins fights. I know that Terrence McKinney is fast, and Manuel Torres was able to hurt him and then rear naked choke him like 3 fights ago, and I think that's what you got to do against Chris Duncan. You got to like just surprise him. You got to go, because the longer you wait, I think the longer it favors Chris Duncan. Like it's more of his game. So there's that. He's lost to Slaviclaus, Vishlav Borshev, on the Contender Series back in 2021. As I said, Borshev's like a tough out for a fighter, and he's we've been talking about him a lot this card, even though he's not even going to be in the UFC anymore. Anyways, I'm going to go with Chris Duncan TKO over Terrence McKinney. I think there's going to be an elbow or something. Like, Terrence McKinney's chin is suspect. I don't know if I want to... Terrence McKinney has a good ground game, good jiu-jitsu, but I don't know. Chris Duncan could submit him. He could TKO him, but I'm going to go with a second round TKO. Chris Duncan over Terrence McKinney. I think he's just going to find an elbow or something, and it's going to be something to watch. So we're going to go with that. Go for that. Yes, Yuri. Congratulations to Yuri, by the way. I believe he's welcoming a child. So that's very, very beautiful. He's a father and daddy to many of you UFC fans. Love Yuri. Next fight we have to cap off the prelims. We have Grant Dawson versus Manuel Torres. Manuel Torres, I don't think, really gets out of the first round, so there's that, which is pretty scary. And then Grant Dawson got, KO'd by a jab from Bobby Green. Ignacio Bahamondes has been the only dude to beat Manuel Torres. He's beat Chris Duncan, Nicholas Moda, Frank Camacho, and Colton Englund via the Contender Series. Brother, this is tough. I think if you guys want to pick Manuel Torres in this fight, what you should do is you can take him by first round knockout, because if you look at all his fights, they end in the first round. That's just what happens. So he either goes out there and starches Grant Dawson, or Grant Dawson is able to establish in the first round what's going to happen for most of the fight, which is what I think, which is just going to be him taking him down and getting back position and, controlling him and winning like that, because Grant Dawson knows how dangerous Manuel Torres is. And only 4 fights ago, he was KO'd by Bobby Green, and then he had a draw with Ricky Glenn, but his only loss is to Bobby Green. Diego Ferreira last time out, Rafa Garcia, Joe Selecki. Not crazy opponents. Manuel Torres is definitely a step up and a good stitch on his belt. But again, Manuel Torres, if he wins, first round TKO. But I'm going with a Grant Dawson, 29-28, 30-27. Honestly, if he does what I think he's going to do, I think he'll establish control in the first round and just continue to do that over the next 2 rounds, and he'll just, ride him. Manuel Torres has a lot of KO power, so watch out for that. First round TKO for Manuel Torres could make you some good money. All right, let's move on to the main card. Woo! Also, what are the odds for that? Last Chris Duncan was minus 160. Pretty sure we said that. Grant Dawson is a minus 215 favorite. Manuel Torres is a plus 184 underdog. So I can only imagine what the odds are going to be. Probably pretty good for a first round TKO from Manuel Torres. So perhaps worthy. Let's move up the card. All right, main card. This is where it gets heated, guys. Jan Blachowicz goes up against Bogdan Guskov. Jan Blachowicz is coming off of a split decision loss to Carlos Ulberg. Pretty impressive. I thought, Jan Blachowicz was able to edge that fight, and I think he did on the verdict scorecard, but, very close. Tactical striking match. Jan Blachowicz had some leg kicks. Kind of a boring fight, but Jan Blachowicz is one of those guys who, when he's just a guy he's older, but that doesn't mean that he's not a boss. Like, he had Alex Pereira in a lot of trouble in his fight. Maybe a little bit more ground and pound, and I thought arguably could have won that fight, but I remember saying to my friend, as soon as the bell rung, your bet is safe with Alex Pereira, and he was very worried. I was like, trust me. He didn't do enough for them to give it to him, even though I thought he could have won. Regardless, Jan Blachowicz, he's lost some very close decisions where, you could argue that he's won. Magomed Ankalaev, I wouldn't have argued that, but, the leg kicks hurt Magomed Ankalaev. Alex Pereira, very close fight. And Carlos Ulberg, very close fight. They're both... Ulberg versus Blachowicz was a unanimous decision. I think that should be split, but, yeah, you're just the champ, the guy who's going to be fighting for the title, and now you go against Bogdan Guskov, who I think I took against Nikita Krylov his last time out. And that was after Nikita Krylov had already gotten knocked out by Dominic Reyes in his return. So we already knew what he was all about. Tough. I think Jan Blachowicz is going to be able to do it. Yeah, he's not injured. I think he's going to be good against Bogdan Guskov. It's probably pretty close odds from what I'm... Yep, plus... Ooh. Okay, so again, some betting sites, but most have Jan Blachowicz as a slight favorite. Some have Bogdan Guskov, but majority have Jan as a minus 135 as a median favorite. So that's that. I'm gonna go with Jan Blachowicz. I think it's gonna either by decision or it can be by TKO. I think he's gonna win a decision. I don't think if it goes. I think Bogdan Guskov honestly could go there and TKO him, but yeah, I'm going with the Jan Blachowicz 29-28 decision. Don't rob the boy, and maybe I'll have him on one of my parlays. Henry Cejudo takes on Peyton Talbot. I think it's a little too soon for this. Henry Cejudo's calling this his retirement fight. Peyton Talbot's a minus 265 favorite. So, I don't know. When this fight was announced, I feel like I and a lot of the MMA YouTubers and just people in general were of kind of the same opinion that you're just going to give Peyton Talbot this after the guy he beat who was only had 3 fights in the UFC, and I believe he's a prospect and it's a good win, but you're one fight removed from being beat by Rayon and Barcelos, who's older, who just beat a guy who I picked him to lose against, which is unfortunate. Why can't I remember his name? He's a very popular fighter, and it's very upsetting. Just give me a second, guys. Yeah, Ricky Simone. Yeah, tough fight. But Rayon Barcelos is on a bit of a win streak himself, so maybe that's aged a little bit better now. But Henry Cejudo hasn't really looked like shit. Sorry, I don't know why I said hasn't looked like. He hasn't looked bad in his last couple performances. He's fought against top comp for sure. Last time out, he got eye poked pretty bad, and then it went to a decision against Song Yadong at UFC Fight Night Seattle, and that was the last time he fought. But he was doing well in that fight. I thought he was definitely landing. The fight versus Merab, he let that get away from him. The first round, he rocked Merab, so he was able to take a round off Merab. And Aljamain Sterling, he went to a split decision against after, taking a 3-year hiatus from the sport. This is going to be really tough for Peyton Talbot. I mean, Henry Cejudo could just be looking at this in a completely different way, but like I just see the opponents that he's faced, and I just look at the context behind, those fights, and I just don't think that Peyton Talbot's shown me enough to like. Henry Cejudo is ranked number 10. They obviously want Peyton Talbot to be ranked. They're giving him Henry Cejudo, Triple C, 2-weight division champion, Olympic gold medalist. I don't think so. I think I'm picking Henry Cejudo as an underdog pick, either by decision or TKO. I just way too much experience, and I just think it's way too soon. I don't know why he's so much of a favorite, and if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But I'm not gonna go with Peyton Talbot. This one's tough. Brandon Moreno versus Taira. Brandon Moreno is not as old as I think he is. Only 31. Taira last time out beat Park Hyung-sung, who lost, his most recent fight after that. Tatsuro Taira's only loss in the UFC, I believe, was to Brandon Royval, where he was able to win, I think, 2 rounds. Like, he has very good back takes, Tatsuro Taira. And it's only 3 rounds, so he could get back control over Brandon Moreno. But Brandon Moreno has really good scrambles, so there's that. He uses Aguilar, Edgar Cheriez, Carlos Hernandez, Alex Perez. Close fight with Brandon Royval, but like he was getting boxed up by Brandon Royval, and I think Brandon Moreno has good boxing. Sure, he was dropped by Alexandre Pantoja in their fight, but I mean he survived both times that they fought. So I don't think Tatsuro Taira is going to be able to finish him. The way I think Tatsuro Taira wins is like back takes, back control. Because I don't think he wins the striking game against Brandon Moreno. This is tough. I want to look at the odds for a second. Ooh, minus 125 for Tatsuro Taira, and then plus 105 for Brandon Moreno. And you know what? I want to go with Brandon Moreno. This is a tough card. I keep reiterating that, and I don't like being wrong. It's the worst thing, watching a fight and then seeing someone just get TKO'd, or you just like lose a robbery decision, or just anything. Like, it just sucks being wrong, especially when it comes to MMA. So, yeah. But I got to go what's in my heart. Brandon Moreno, I think he'll be able to win a decision against Tatsuro Taira. Taira's tough. It's 3 rounds. Brandon Moreno's championship tested. He's on a bit of a streak, and I think people can say that people can maybe make the argument that he's regressed a little bit, but he beat Merab Dvalishvili, who was undefeated. I mean, I thought he lost to Kai Kara France, but, and then after that beat Steve Erceg in a fight where, like, as it got a little further, Steve Erceg was able to land, and, I think the judges had some 49-46 scorecards and stuff like that, so I don't think it was that. I think Steve did a little bit better than the judges will give him a little credit for, as the fight went a little longer, but Brandon Moreno is a fast starter, and it's 3 rounds, and I do think he'll have the striking advantage, so I'm going to take him over Tatsuro Taira. I'm going to take him by decision, 29-28. Veteran. All right, we move up to the flyweight co-main event, and I'm sorry. I can't do it. I love Joshua Van. His last performance versus Brandon Royval was spectacular, and, contender for fight of the year, honestly, at UFC 317. Dominated the first round, second round, Brandon Royval won. And then the third round, I thought, honestly, and you guys can let me know what you think about this, but I thought that Brandon Royval was winning up until Joshua Van knocked him down, and then, round just goes from a close round to almost a 10-8. Anyways, or definitely a 10-9. So, not 10-8. They don't give out 10-8s unless they're 10-7s. But, Joshua Van versus Pantoja, I think it's going to be tough for Joshua Van. I think Pantoja's going to be able to finish him early on the ground. Joshua Van could have some success. He's a dog, and I think he's going to rush Pantoja. I honestly don't know. I would be so happy to see Joshua Van win this fight. I'd be very happy with it. I see Pantoja finishing him on the ground at some point earlier on. Similarly to the way that he submitted Kai Kara France, but like a little earlier than that. Like, I think he'll get some trouble from Joshua Van on the feet, but I don't think his Joshua Van's ground game is nearly good enough to stop Pantoja from getting him there and advancing his positions and submitting Joshua Van. So I'm gonna go with Pantoja. It's making me cry, a little emotional that this is the last card of the year, but this has got to be a long video. But we've arrived at the main event. We have Merab Dvalishvili versus Petr Yan. Whoa, the rematch. I really first time Petr Yan had had a little injury with his left arm or something. Wasn't really throwing it. I believe it was his left arm, and he lost all 5 rounds to Merab, or Merab achieved record takedowns. I don't know how many it was, like 50 or something like that, against Petr Yan, and just didn't let up. Relentless pressure. Merab, if he wins this fight, and I think he will, should get the fighter of the year. Like, the turnaround, he just fought in October against Corey Sandhagen, and now he's going up against Petr Yan, and dare I say, Merab's striking has been looking a lot better as of recently. He almost had Corey Sandhagen in big trouble. Well, he did have him in big trouble. He almost had him out on the feet. He almost, was able to TKO the guy. So that's very impressive. Even in the second fight with O'Malley, Merab was able to strike a lot better from what I've seen from him. Even with Umar, you see improvements in his striking, and I think that's where Yan had him before in the striking, and maybe he still does, because Yan is a tremendous striker. His last time out, he fought Marcus McGee, which I thought was a weird matchup. Marcus McGee, I don't know if he even... was he undefeated in the UFC? I believe so. So it looks good for Petr Yan, but even his fight, to Jonathan Martinez, bad fight IQ. He was kicking the shit out of Marcus McGee's leg. Could have finished him. And, Marcus McGee's tough, good win, but, I thought you could have given maybe somebody else. I thought the Sean O'Malley, Petr Yan rematch made a lot of sense at that time, but now you're fighting for a title. Beat Davison Figueiredo at 135. Started his return to the winning ways with his win against Song Yadong, where I think he tore his ACL, but he was able to win the fight by unanimous decision. Had some very nice takedowns in that fight. He's got very good trips. I love Petr Yan. It's just, what do you do against Merab? Because none of that's going to work, and he's just going to be on your ass the entire time. I can see him having a better performance against Merab, or perhaps he's able to pick off one of the earlier rounds, similar to the way that Corey was able to. But I think once Merab settles in, it's going to be really, 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 really tough for him. So, what can I really say? Yeah, I got to go with... is Merab going to finish Petr Yan? I don't think so. I'm going to go with a Merab 50-46. I think Petr Yan will win a round. I'll give him a round against Merab. I really hope I'm wrong about both of the main event and co-main event. I hope Joshua Van and Petr Yan win, and we get to see some new blood, but it's really tough to go against these guys. And they're both competing for, fighter of the year. Pantoja, well, no, Merab gets it because of his title defenses, but Pantoja's looked great too. These guys are so dominant. And perhaps one day you might see them fight each other when they run out of people to beat. And thank you for listening. I'll put my parlays, I don't know, I gotta let this marinate a little bit, so as I'm making the video, I'll throw them up here so you guys can see what they are, and then I'll obviously put them in my description. But yeah, 40-minute video. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you're enjoying the sound quality, because I'm sure enjoying listening to it, because it sounds a lot better. Basement Breakdown, out. We'll see you in the next one.